welcome back to another episode of Black Unlimited. And it's your host, yours truly, Mr. Darius Silver. To all, and the most cultured to some. And for today's episode, today's topic is something I'm passionate about, speaking about, and informing you guys and giving you guys useful tips and just giving it from my perspective. So today's topic is a very passionate one for myself, and I'm happy to talk about it with you guys. So, but before we get into today's episode, as always, but I need you guys to check out my previous episodes that I have released. I think all of them were good, because I'm biased, but hopefully after you finish watching today's episode, you go look at my previous episodes that I have released and dropped. So some story time, some tips, some principles, and some episodes are very knowledgeable and wonderful. So hopefully you guys will check out those episodes when you finish watching this video. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on today's episode. And don't forget to check out my Instagram that's on the screen. My business Instagram, Black Unlimited. My personal Instagram, Darius1Silver. So if you can do those things for me, asking nicely and respectfully, please. But for today's episode, let's get right into it. I want to talk about the hardest thing about having a career in business, or going into a career in business at such a young age, like myself, or being a minority, black man or a woman or any type of minority in this world. The hardest thing about going into it, the biggest thing about going into it, in my opinion. So about this topic I'm very passionate about, because many opinions and perspectives and truths about it. So I want to bring to you guys my perspective and truth about it. So let's get right into it. So I want to start off with saying why business can be hard to get into, right? At such a young age. Business is very competitive. Very competitive. And it takes a lot of knowledge to get into it. Young or old, but especially at a young age, you kind of at a what's the saying for it? You kind of at a hinge or at a stoplight whatsoever, because you behind the curve or whatsoever, because the knowledge it takes to get into business is a lot. So you need as much tools as you can get, in my opinion. You need internships. You need education. Sometimes you might need education. Sometimes you don't, but it can be useful. We need to have networks and connections, because, like someone told me before, it's not what you know most of the time, it's who you know. So the business world, or I'll probably say more than just business, but mainly business and any other competitive industries, is very competitive, right? And you got that the knowledge, or the somewhat knowledge to get into it, because 9 times out of 10, if you don't have the knowledge of it, or the want you to get knowledge of it, or the want you to get knowledge about it, you're not going to succeed or have any success long term. So that's one of the two biggest things that people don't realize that have an interest in business, is that it's very competitive. And sometimes some people don't survive because it can be very stressful. It can be very tedious, and sometimes you're just not cut out for it. So that's the biggest thing so far. I'm going to talk about, but that's not the hardest thing I probably could say about it. But I want to start this topic with that particular message and informative information about it. But another thing I'm going to talk on is some of the hard things that I've been through in my career that I had to learn over time in business, and from my perspective. For me, going to the business and the business career industry is that you have to know where you fit in. And it took time for me to realize that you're not gonna fit in every aspect of business. I mean, if you can, it's great, but 9 times out of 10, the average business-minded person, or the person that just loves business as a whole, has their strengths and has their weaknesses. 9 times out of 10, that person's strength is not going to be knowing every aspect of the business. You need smart people around you. You know, you're not going to, like a wise one said, never be the smartest man in the room. Remember that, never be the smartest man in the room. So that's the biggest thing I have to learn. One of the biggest things I have to go through my career is that you're not going to know everything, and you're not going to fit into, you got to know where you fit in. That's one of the biggest things. Another thing I've learned in my career about being in business, like I said before, it's very competitive. I didn't realize that until I was actually focused on, I'm going to business. And the competitive landscape is second to none. It's second to none, I promise you that. Right? It taught me so many things about myself, is that you have to be in your P's and Q's at all times. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to put in the long hours, or being the first one in the office, or if you work remotely, be the first one that's logged in or whatsoever. Like, there's so many things that go into it, right? So it's a very mental mindset testing yourself. And the last thing I'll probably say that I have to go from that I've learned about going into business and how hard business can be is finding a voice, right? I feel like the business industry gives people voices, whether they know it or not. And the biggest thing I had to overcome, or the biggest thing I feel like is hard to do, is gaining a voice for yourself. Everybody wants a voice. Having a voice is important, and I feel like the business industry, in other industries as well, but the business industry is too, it allows you to gain a voice whether you think you have a voice or not, because the business industry is so scalable, and it can provide change to so many people. That voice is automatically created because of that. So that's one of the biggest things I had to figure out, what three or four of them I say. But let's get into the main topic of today's video. From my perspective, the hardest thing as a whole, from my opinion. Number one, embracing change. Change is going to continue to happen. Every industry, especially business. So you have to learn how to get comfortable with change all the time. Because sometimes you might like it, sometimes you will like it. You know, sometimes it just depends. Change is inevitable. Change can be good, sometimes change can be bad. Sometimes you have to be willing to embrace it, because it's going to make you who you are. Number two, get used to knowing the unknown. You never know what's coming. That kind of interacts with change, but you never know what's coming in the future. You should be willing to just say, okay, whatever's going to happen in the future, the unknown, you got to be willing to accept it, embrace it, and just go with it. And just hopefully it makes you better as time goes on. Number three, I probably say the most important one, knowing that you will fail along the way. I forgot to mention that in my second viewpoint about what I've learned about myself, in my career, and what I've learned about overcoming hard things is knowing that you will fail along the way. And you have to be willing to simply take it and take and just go with it, because to succeed or to overcome things, number one thing that comes with that is failure. And you gotta take it with a grain of salt, because it's inevitable. You might get lucky and say, yeah, I'm not gonna fail, or you might get lucky and say you just reach success that easy or quick without any type of rejections or failure or mistakes. You might get lucky, but 9 times out of 10, it's gonna happen. So that's number 3, knowing that you will fail along the way in business. But the last thing I want to speak about in today's episode, and I feel like it's very important to mention to you guys and to say for myself, is another wise thing that I've learned and someone told me or read about, is that there's a recipe to overcoming the hard things in life, overcoming the hard things in business, and overcoming the hard things that's just gonna come at the individual, man, woman, black, white, Hispanic, Asian. There's a recipe for that. And if you understand that, there's a certain recipe for every individual. The recipe might differ, but there's always a recipe for that. And you have to think about that. Is that yes, you're gonna fail, but there's a recipe proven to overcoming that. There's many people out here that are examples of that. Celebrities, or just the average person, the average company, the average businessman, the average, up and coming person in any industry. There's many examples of that. So always remember, there's a recipe for overcoming the hard things in life, business, or whatever's gonna come at you. There's a recipe for that. So that's pretty much simple. I know today's episode might have been pretty short, but that's it for today's episode. And hopefully it's very useful to you guys. It might have been all over the place, but still, hopefully it's very useful for you guys. And don't forget to, hopefully you made this part of the video. And don't forget to always look at my previous episodes if you missed them. If you haven't already, go watch my episodes. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on today's video. Please like, please comment, and please subscribe. I can't stress that enough. And don't forget to check out my Instagrams, is on the screen. And as always, stay unlimited and come join the Unlimited crew. Stay mellow, and one love. Boom.